residents of various municipalities are complaining of a breakdown in services. In Johannesburg and Cape Town, theft and vandalism of infrastructure have become a serious concern. City power officials have been attacked in the mother city. Cable theft in Manqoba and Cape are leaving residents in the dark. Nobesuthu Hejana is covering this for us. Nobesuthu, perhaps to just give us context, when we speak of the issues plaguing residents of Cape, you say they're in the dark. What exactly has led to this issue?
So, Mfundo, you would know that the increase or the tariffs have increased, but the city of Cape Town is not only battling with those, but the issue has now been cable theft, vandalism, and illegal connections. In fact, the city of Cape Town saying that by February, 38 incidents of cable theft and vandalism were recorded. But I'm joined by the MMC for Energy in the city, Councillor van Reenen. Councillor, we're trying to keep the areas lit, the homes lit, but we're facing this challenge. Tell us about the extent of this issue.
Good morning, Nobesuthu, and thank you very much for having me this morning. Indeed, it is really very concerning, and the stats reflect that very clearly. It is really very concerning. And as the Mayoral Committee member, we are really trying very hard, as well as the city of Cape Town, broader city. We want to keep Cape Town lit. And it is really very difficult, to do that right now. Because as you've mentioned, 38 incidents at R1 million later, for the month of February. Absolutely unacceptable and ridiculous. There is just no way that the city, in fact, will be able to patrol all the thousands of kilometers of cables, all the thousands of kilometers of power lines. There is just no way. To have an expectation to budget for thieves to go and steal, I think it's unheard of. Absolutely ridiculous. I think that they are unscrupulous. They are these are senseless crimes. And I think that I really would like to appeal to the communities to please be our eyes and our ears, because I think where they belong, and I think communities will agree with me, is certainly behind bars. And we really are appealing to the community, please work with us, stand with us in order to bring these culprits to book.
And obviously in Gugulethu and Manqoba this week, we did see that those areas were left in the dark due to that. Just tell us about how quick the city was able to respond, and maybe what are some of the items that were missing or stolen?
I visited the Gugulethu area yesterday, and it makes me really not only sad, but it upsets me, because it affects our innocent, vulnerable, law-abiding citizens. The fact that one of our citizens, in fact, was affected, as well as some of our staff members and some of the contractor staff members, they are currently in hospital. And during my site visit yesterday, it was very clear, that it was stolen cables. And in fact, at the time, the officials thought that it was just 3 cables that were set alight, and not realizing that the 4th one, in fact, was still live. And that is what affected them, because the 4th one exploded. And it's really very sad, that quite a number of our officials, as well as an innocent citizen, is today in hospital. In fact, in the ICU. It is unacceptable. I will stop at absolutely nothing. I think that we need to find these criminals, and I will reiterate, they belong behind bars and not in our society. Because once they start stealing our cables and the rest of our infrastructure, this is really a fight that the communities need to assist us with, as well as our neighborhood watchers. And we really, this is an additional plea. Please assist us to stop this. We need to stop this. because we will not be able to keep Cape Town lit if we are going to continue and allow these culprits and selfish culprits to continue in this fashion.
And we talk about the estimation of 1 million rand that has been estimated, especially for the month of Feb. Obviously, you talk about you having to approach Treasury for more budget. Tell us about the other impacts. Maybe this money could have been used at this particular or for this development. So what are some of those challenges, talking about the fact that more money will have to be coughed out to keep other areas lit and to replace stolen goods?
We have set aside a budget of 40 million, particularly to protect our infrastructure. And I'm sad to say that. 40 million to protect our infrastructure in order to keep Cape Town lit. I think that many ratepayers would agree that it is a crying shame. And so the 40 million will go towards, in the 40 million that we've set aside for our new financial year. And that, of course, will be to deploy security. And I think it's important, that we use some of that budget to protect our hotspots, our infrastructure, in order to not put out the entire city of Cape Town. It is that dire. And I think that it's important for residents to realize that it is that dire. That if we are going to continue at this trend, that in fact, we're not going to be able to end load shedding at all. We will be in the darkness. And that is the reality. That is the reality. Because we are handing, as a city of Cape Town and as residents, we are handing our power to all of these wrongdoers, these culprits who are stealing. They are thieves. And I think that it's important, that we call it for what it is. Today, I am really very angry, and I'm sad, to say that we have 40 million rand as a city, that we are budgeting just alone to secure and to protect our infrastructure. It's unheard of. I've never heard of any government institution who will budget to protect the infrastructure, but also to repair for thieves to come and steal again. Unacceptable.
All right. Well, Mfundo, that was the MMC for Energy in the City of Cape Town, Councillor Van Rooyen, talking about the amount that has to be coughed out now, 40 million rand, to protect infrastructure and also to hire more security, where the issue in Cape Town is vandalism, cable theft and illegal connections. We've also heard from Eskom that they're also having to repair and fix similar things that the MMC is talking about. We were also hearing from the residents in those affected areas as to the impact that this is causing for their daily lives. Mfundo.
Nobesuthu, the MMC is visibly infuriated by this, as she should. Senseless crimes indeed. Perhaps let's rope in Manqoba now, just for him to paint a picture for us of the impact of the vandalism on Joburg residents. Manqoba, what are residents saying on the ground?
Well, Mfundo, what we do understand currently is that this past week alone, there has been 3 violent attacks that targeted city power, security personnel and infrastructure. And these attacks were carried out by heavily armed criminals. We do understand that the first of these incidents took place on Friday night when city power security personnel exchanged gunfire with assailants in Sands, north of Johannesburg. But one of the security personnel, we understand, was rushed to hospital and is now in ICU after being shot in the head. And on Thursday night, we were also told that city power security personnel were gunned down and robbed of their firearms on Car Street in Newtown after ferrying burnt copper cables to a nearby depot from a scene of the underground fire that happened in the CBD last week. And we also understand that there was a third incident that happened yesterday. We understand that it took place last evening, where security personnel at the Sidna substation north of Johannesburg were also attacked. They were accosted by armed gang men with high caliber rifles, and they were made to lie down on the floor as the gang ransacked the substation and stole several hundred kilograms of underground cabling. So we do understand, however, that subsequent to that, the mayor's office, they have now instructed the head of the City Group's Forensic and Investigation Services, Commissioner Shadrack Sibia, to assemble a strong team that will actually investigate some of these incidents. They'll be be working alongside the JMPD as well as the police to try and find those are responsible. And the mayor's office saying that they want to see those who are responsible for these acts behind bars. They are at this particular point suspecting that it could be sabotage or that it could be criminal gangs, organized criminal gangs that are behind these particular attacks.
No, Manqoba, thank you very much for that update. Honestly, very disturbing what we're seeing now, because it seems like criminals don't understand that eventually government will run out of money to replace these cables, and that will mean residents in South Africa will be permanently in the dark. Absolutely unbelievable. Thank you very much to our reporters, Manqoba Mchunu, who's in Johannesburg, and Nobesuthu Hejana, who's in Cape Town.